There we go. Hello. All right, perfect. Let's go and get that going over there. Welcome to our stream, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kevin, and I am here on behalf of Neurodiversity and the Dallas-Fort Worth Autistic Support Group. Today's stream is more than just a broadcast. It's an honest conversation about the urgent support we need to continue our mission. Neurodiversity is dedicated to reshaping how neurodiverse individuals engage with the world and the workforce. We believe in creating spaces where different abilities are not just accommodated, but celebrated for the value they bring. Our work, up until now, has laid the groundwork for a model of inclusivity and empowerment that we're eager to expand. I'm here to share not just the vision, but also the reality of our situation. This is a fundraiser. And yes, it's critical. We're raising funds to secure, this part's a little wishy-washy. We're still growing, but basically one of the things we're trying to raise money for is the ability to get transportation for some of the people who either can't drive or don't have the ability to. That's the same sentence. This is a city and a state where it's sort of built around a car. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to be able to do. There's a number of things, but our goals are broader. Oh, wait. Okay, actually, this is a fundraiser, and yes, it's critical. We're raising funds to secure a vehicle for those who can't travel independently, to provide stable housing and maintain the foundation from which I operate, and to pursue further education to grow this initiative. But our goals are broader. We aim to standardize our group model, reach out across Texas, and unite with others for a louder voice and advocacy. We want to ensure that when decisions are made about neurodiversity, they're made with our participation, not just about us, but with us leading the dialogue. I come to you as someone who has faced significant challenges, from personal safety to health and housing. I've lived the reality of overcoming adversity time and time again, and now I'm channeling that resilience into Neurodiversity. Your support today is not just for me, it's for the countless others who look to us for hope and guidance. We're transparent about our needs because we trust in the generosity and understanding of our community. Every dollar that you donate is a step towards a future where neurodiversity is not just a concept, but a living, thriving aspect of society. So let's get into the heart of our discussion today, knowing that each of us plays a part in this story of change. Let's talk about where we are, where we're going, and how your support can help us get there. Thank you for being here. Your presence is a powerful reminder of the strength that we have together. Now, let's dive in. So today's stream is going to be relatively unstructured. I've been doing a lot of discussions with some of the people on the team, some of the volunteers, and appears that I may have been trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. And by which I mean, let me turn down my audio real quick because that music is bugging me, and I hopefully have it turned down enough for you guys. Let me double check that real quick. Am I audible over the music? Testing. Oh yeah, you can barely hear it. Okay, good. All right. So in some of the discussions, it's been brought to my attention that my original idea of sharing news and content and focusing on that may not have been ideal because it doesn't actually talk about what we do, right? So today's stream is going to be an attempt to try to bridge that gap. Now, we're still working on trying to coordinate better on the back end to plan these, but I think what we've come to realize is if the goal is to bring awareness to try to get donations, then we should talk about what we're doing and what we have been doing and how we help. So I'm not sure if I can pull it off for 2 hours, although now that I think about it, we're going to definitely have an intermission about an hour into it. But what it seems like might be a better idea is making this space to draw attention to what kind of things we've already done. And so the big one, obvious one to start with, would be the support group. Seeing as how that was kind of my main motivation behind trying to do this. So the goal is shifted from, what used to be. Let me just start off by talking about how I came to be the facilitator for the group, for example. So the previous facilitator had been running it for 10 years, I think, give or take. They were originally I don't know if they came from the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network or were just related to it, but there was definitely an association in the beginning. I guess when the pandemic struck in 2019, 2020, whenever everything was shut down, we couldn't do the in-person stuff. Sorry, I'm sure most neurodiverse people understand what it's like when there's something not, like there's like a little piece of loose skin and it's driving me nuts. Can't think about anything else other than that one distraction, like the tag on a shirt, for example. But that to get back to the point at hand, the previous facilitator sort of couldn't do it anymore. I'm not sure if it was the stress or they were exhausted or just, 10 years is a long time. But they had made several requests via emails. Like I'd gone to maybe 3 or 4 of the group's events in the past, just because, when you're built different, you could tell. And when I got the diagnosis, I did what a lot of people who come to the group do, where I tried to figure out where other people like me were. And it was very different than the group is today, but it was still really valuable to be able to have that experience of going there and being like, okay, like I might not be as weird as that guy, but I'm definitely weirder than that guy, and we're all kind of the same. So, maybe I'm not so alone. And they had tried to send out like emails asking for people to join, and like I wanted to jump in because I'd started Neurounify, and the whole purpose of it was to try to help community and build support, stuff like that. And then I just, executive dysfunction's a bitch, right? And I couldn't remember to send the email or to do whatever. And then I decided to go to one of the group meetings again, and luck would have it that was basically the last time she was going to do it. And said that if anybody didn't step up, that it would be a no-go. So, I Neurounify is definitely struggling, but so was I, and so were a lot of people. So I went ahead and stepped up and took over the group and did what I could. There was another gentleman who I guess wasn't willing to do it by himself, but wanted to do it as a partnership, although that didn't particularly work out due to different views on what support looks like. That particular individual was, I think the fastest way to describe it is hyper-individualistic. We'll just say I'm in Texas and there's a particular politic here, and that person aligned with that politic very well, which to me, especially they didn't even show up the first day of the actual support group. They were happy to say we need to do this and do that, and then they just disappeared for a while, and I got left on my own. And I don't want to do that to people again. Like I've gotten so much feedback from people about what the group has been able to help them do and experience, and how it's been able to help them feel differently about themselves. And that stuff's important. As exhausting and taxing as it's been to try to do this on my own, there's usually people who come in and help. There was a period of time where I went to rehab, and I had somebody just kind of jump in and take over, and that community support meant everything. Like, I don't think I could have recovered as quickly and as well as I did if I didn't have, that tangible evidence that there actually were people out there who cared and something that mattered. So, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this stream. I'm going to try to do it every single day, rain, shine, sleet, snow, like it's the goal is to draw attention. Now, a lot of our other streams are probably going to be a little more high energy. My day did not start off well. It didn't end well. The weekend's been rough. It's been rough for a while. I mean, that's again why we're doing the fundraiser, right? Like there's a need. I need to be quite honest. We're facing an eviction at the moment, and that threatens my personal stability to a great degree. And as the facilitator for a support group, like as codependent as I am, and as much as I want to say everyone else matters more than me, there's a certain value in making sure that my life is stable too, right? If I'm to be a resource for the community, then at the very least I owe it to them to take care of myself and to have my needs met. It's give what you can, give from abundance, not out of obligation. And that's what I'm hoping this fundraiser can do, right? I'm hoping that if I can keep this consistent, we can raise the voices, we can talk about the dreams and the visions of everything that we're trying to do, then we can kind of lift up our own voices, because it just seems like I even with the support group that we're in, right? Like we've got people of pretty much every salary type, right? It doesn't seem too outlandish for us to be able to support our own community, in a sense, right? To be able to provide the resources that we're sorely missing and lacking. And there's certainly a lot of value in pushing towards having it change in a regulatory way, but if you go that approach, it doesn't necessarily mean who's going to enforce it, right? It's not like there's a whole bunch of neurodiverse. I mean, I might be surprised, but I would assume there's probably not a ton of neurodiverse people in policing or in certain levels of government, and so it would be all well and good if we get some kind of thing passed that says you have to do this, you have to do that, but we have laws that say people are supposed to get paid, right? And wage theft is the number one theft in America. And neurodiverse people are definitely huge victims of that specifically too. So like it's man, I feel that obligation to give the camera eye contact, give people eye contact. I just want to draw you guys into, the neurodiverse struggle, the autistic struggle, right? Like, it's not even a real person's eye contact, but like, I'm just so used to thinking and processing by looking down and away. But then I'm thinking about, well, I've seen other autistic creators and they can give the camera eye contact. But, it's that, I mean, it's not even an internalized ableism at that point, right? Like, it's just some core belief stuff. Everyone's got their own method, everyone's got their own approach, and that's okay. But yeah, so with the group and everything that we're doing here, like that's, I think, what we're really hoping to bring attention to with this stream is, I mean, we're about to hit 1,000 members in our meetup group, and that's not even touching on the number of people who come in just because of the physical presence we have. And that's something that I've already had to shrink due to my own financial situation. Like, I had a car recently. Notice I'm a little bit out of frame. Let me actually... There we go. And like, as soon as we moved into this new place, my car got wrecked and totaled like a week later. And, the circumstances where I was in, quite an abusive work and home life situation, and had somebody put their neck out for me and help get me out of there. And, you know, I've been able to experience 6 months of some semblance of physical safety, probably for the first time in my life in a long time. Although, you know, again, that's part of what I'm here for, part of what they're fundraising for, is that is currently under threat. We were ripped off by 3 different clients for a total sum of $20,000 or $30,000, and it hurts. Basically, is it finally came around and put us in a bad enough situation to where now we're not sure where we can go from here. So, and just if anybody pops in or shows up in the chat or anything and has any questions or anything they want to say, this is also very much designed to be an open Q&A. A lot of what I'm trying to do is kind of just fill the air, try to talk about what's going on, what we're doing, what we're dealing with, and make the space for anyone who needs help or support to come in and ask questions. Now, I haven't done a whole lot of advertising for the stream, so we won't have probably very many viewers except for people who trickle in and out at the moment, because we were experiencing some severe technical issues in the beginning. And so I really don't want to push a large crowd of people into here who I could accidentally alienate because the audio quality is offensive, or like when you think about auditory processing disorders or any of the other things that make it really hard to pay attention, focus, and learn, right? I don't want to bring a bunch of people here just to make them suffer. So really what we want to do is hammer out the kinks, come up with some kind of, like, we want to know what we're advertising is actually something worth telling people about, right? And I'm hoping today's stream, I might have all the technical issues ironed out. I'm noticing the audio might be a little loud. Yeah, it's pushing up against yellow for sure. I'm going to drop it a little bit. Wow, okay, drop it a little more. Okay. Yeah, we're doing it live and dirty. I was talking with ChatGPT earlier today, and that was kind of one of the things that it talked about, is maybe this is an opportunity to shine light on what the struggle's like in real life. I'm not a big fan of vlogging. I'm not even a fan of the word because it's so mouth gross. But something similar to that it seemed like that might be an approach. And so just, I don't know, there's a lot of good that I don't want to lose. You know, I like to make it about others and about the community, but there's also it feels nice to have a calling, to have a thing that you're somewhat halfway decent at and that helps people, right? Like every job I've ever had before this, all I wanted to do was make somebody else rich. Like that, bluntly. I've mentioned it to multiple employers. You could go ask them. I just wanted enough to meet my needs, maybe play a couple video games, maybe 1 or 2 new video games a month, you know, spoil my animals and my friends a little bit, and, well, maybe not spoil my friends so much, but, you know, hang out with them. Certainly more than they're able to get nowadays. And really one of the big things I want to push for, I'm hoping if I can make this work the way that I'm hoping it will, is that I can use some of these donations to help further my own education and to make it where, like, my biggest fear is that I'm going to give somebody some feedback or some advice that's just going to hurt the people around them in some way because of my own ignorance, or I'm going to tell somebody something, the wrong thing, and it's going to destroy their marriage or you know, hurt their kids or something like that, right? Like, there's huge ethical burden that I place on myself in this role that you know, I'd like to do more to help with. And I think education goes a long way. Now, I know most of the education out there is sort of about us and not by us. You could say there's a little bias. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so I really want to become more educated, learn how to be a better support for the group, learn how to facilitate better. Like, we're really looking to do more social experiences for people. I've done it a few times in the past to some limited success, but again, I've been operating on a shoestring personal budget this whole time. And so, when you're used to being an exploited, underpaid worker, you don't have a whole lot of extra to give. And thankfully, we have some volunteers now who are willing to give their time and attention and focus to that sort of thing. And so we're trying to figure something out now. We haven't actually planned our first social event. If anybody has any ideas, feel free to drop them in the comments or in the chat. Very open to that kind of stuff, because it can be really difficult with the support group, because you got to deal with the executive dysfunction, meaning people may or may not show up on time. Either you have the people who show up exactly on time or early, who expect everyone else to respect their time the same way they're showing they respect other people's time. You have the people who don't have the awareness of time, period, so they can't show up on time anywhere, and we don't want to shame them and make them feel like they can't go. So we've got to have something like drop in, drop out, but we've got to make sure it's in an environment that doesn't have too many sensory issues. We've got to make sure it's not too bright, too loud, too smelly, too colorful, it's difficult to make a safe space for people who are struggling and who are sensitive. Thankfully, I myself am one of them, so it's not like it feels like a burden for me anyway, but it's not like these people are putting a burden on me. It's like, I got to do that stuff anywhere. I'm going to be miserable, right? Which is all the more reason why I think with higher education, especially if literally we go the route where maybe I go towards some kind of degree or something like that and do school part-time and the group part-time, I could be one of those researchers that is representative of the people that is actually researching, not placing my pre-existing ideals and notions on what people should be and reverse engineering it, so to speak, right? Or not reverse engineering it, but making a difference, I guess. That's the long and short of it. It's with where we're at financially, it's harder to make a difference now than ever, but it's December, it's Christmas, it's the season of giving. So I'm hoping things work out. There's, I think, at least $6,000 just to get us caught up on rent. Me and one of the co-organizers were roommates. It's probably at least $2,000 or $3,000 minimum for some kind of transportation. Ideally, maybe we can get some kind of rental arrangement or something. That's part of what this stream is about too, is to kind of bring you guys into the thought process of what facilitation looks like too, right? Like, how do I balance the needs of myself with the needs of the group and the needs of the other people? It's not easy. It's exhausting. And I spend a lot of my time trying to just make sure I don't do damage. Even with our Discord, sometimes it feels like every message I send is the message that's going to make everyone go, oh, I hate this place, I'm going to leave. And that struggle's real, but I still, I don't know, the feedback helps a lot, honestly. That's the biggest part of it. All the stories, man. Like, there's been at least half a dozen times where I've been told in almost no uncertain terms that some of the people not just wouldn't be in the group anymore, they wouldn't be on the planet anymore. And, I used to be very, very codependent. I'm still rather, but that was one of those things that the old me would have internalized to such an unhealthy degree. Like, it's my responsibility to keep people alive, which I do think as humans, you know, we all have sort of that responsibility, right? Like, don't get me wrong, but it's just, when you hear stuff like that, it makes you want to fight, right? Like, that it's not about what we've done or what I've done. It's about what the world did to them to where this could do that for them, right? Like, I'm grateful to be able to make a space where people can feel like their life matters, but holy shit, the world shouldn't be the thing making people feel like it doesn't. You know, feel like I love when people come in and are like, this is the first time I've been able to unmask in my whole life, and this is the first place I've ever felt comfortable just being myself. This is, you know, those are great, but there's like a certain level of devastation that's hard to let go of whenever you hear about how hard it is for people. I mean, I certainly haven't had it easy. I've got a half dozen suicide attempts. I mean, the first time I tried was when I was 8. You know, it's hard when you have a lifetime of being told that who you are is wrong and what you do naturally hurts people, right? When you're taught that your existence is a weapon, almost, right? Like, and nobody tells you how to wield it either. Like, there's so many benefits that I could have taken advantage of a lot earlier in my life had I known that there was another side to this sword, right? And that's another big thing that we like to do for the group, and I like to do for people when I'm doing the mentorship and the job training and job placement stuff, right? Is oh, I lost my train of thought. I thought I could pull it back. Itchy nose. But it's, yeah, no, it's gone. I do know that I was referencing some of the job placement and mentoring stuff, so that's a good enough segue to, oh, I remember now. It's perspective, man, is just trying to help people get perspective because of how many of us are taught that we're the problem, and it's just not fair. It really hurts to think about how many people need more than I can give. And so that's why I'm reaching out to you in the audience, on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever this ends up. People need your help. And I'm hoping to be here as a conduit for them, to connect you to them, to connect us with each other. One of the things that I was talking about in the last group, or the last stream, was seeing how many small independent groups are out there making a difference. Making a difference every day. And realizing that if they could just be connected, there would be so much more power behind it. Like, sure, there's a smaller target too, but when I think about all the different advantages that neurodiverse people have when it comes to fine details and like all the little stuff that can trip up a nonprofit or an organization, like if we have a forest bias, I don't see how, like, if you get 3 like autistic programmers or like autistic lawyers or something to look over a document, I could almost guarantee that there's not going to be anything missed. I would trust that more than I would trust a computer going over. That's for darn sure. Not even a question. I really hope that we're able to make that kind of change. I see the tides are kind of shifting. You know, there's a lot of old world ways of doing things, and they're sort of breathing their last breath, right? This is a chance for the new generation to take over. You know, everything's vulnerable, everything's at war. It's a perfect time for somebody to stand up and speak out. And I think we can do that with your support. I think the more people who can help, the more voices we can reach out to, the more we can connect people in our community together, the more powerful we can be. And it's easier than you think. There's so much hope, there's so much strength, there's so much power. The thing that makes it hard is that we're separate, and they're trying to keep us separate. It's divide and conquer. I mean, you even see that nowadays. I just learned about this new thing where there's LGB drop the T and all of this other minority rights stuff where people are falling for the tricks of, you know, I can't get help if you get help. You're going to make it worse for me. And they don't realize that it's all the same systemic struggle, right? Like, I feel like disability rights is perfectly aligned with LGBT rights. It's the same kind of request for autonomy and the right to determine my own existence and not be kept out of society because of a difference. You know, somebody doesn't want to be mildly inconvenienced, so I'm not allowed to go to a particular store or something like that. Like, either because of my joint disability, maybe I can't walk up 20 flights of stairs and they don't feel like they should have a ramp or an escalator or an elevator. Or I love somebody of the same sex and they don't think I should be able to have a wedding, right? Like, it's the same denial of individuals, right? If you're not a cog, you're bad. And I can see that breaking down because communities are getting built to be smaller and smaller. And not smaller and smaller, that's a weird way to word that, but there are physical locations now where people are realizing that their local community is what's important, and they're starting to connect on a more direct way. Like, it's not that the communities are getting smaller, it's that the connections are getting more personal. And, you know, we can do that. We can do that with our community. I know there's a lot of misinformation about our communication skills that is just frustrating and demeaning and demoralizing. It's just not true. I hearkened back to a research study I read a while ago. I can't remember exactly where it was done. I think it might have been Cambridge. But essentially they did a telephone game where they had neurotypicals and autistic people, and they basically showed that when neurotypical people are communicating in a chain, they have the same information retention that when autistic people communicate in a chain, they do. This freaking laptop keeps going to sleep. And the problem was with neurotypical to autistic communication. And so that's kind of one of the reasons that I'm here and why I've started live streaming and why I'm starting to try to reach out more and do more stuff, because I have a lifetime in my own personal career of being in pretty much every job position you can think of. I've been a janitor, I've been a door-to-door salesperson, I was a telemarketer, I was a teacher, I was a coach, I was a team lead, I was a technician, I was an engineer, I was a carpenter for a little bit. Like, I've been from the bottom of the food chain to the top of the food chain. I worked in executive C-level suites. I've been in board meetings at Fortune 50 companies. I've worked for Microsoft. I worked for Hilton Corporation. Like, I've been trained by life to be able to bridge that communication gap better than most. And I want to be our voice. I don't want to be my voice. It's one of the reasons that the stream is so important to me too, because we're here trying to get community feedback. We're here trying to ask for, what do you need help with? How can I help you? Right? And that way I can feel confident in knowing that these donations that we're getting, all this work that I'm putting in, is going to go towards what people actually need. Because one of the worst things about being neurodiverse is everybody telling you what you need instead of listening to you tell them what you need, right? And whatever I can do to break that down, that's what we're here for. I'm hoping anybody who might stop in for a brief moment might have something that they want to share or something that they want to say. I think what I might do is we might even look into doing Nightbot or something like that to sort of have the bot prompting people. Although we're definitely open if anybody wants to volunteer to help with the stream or help in any capacity with the support group or the social stuff or help with my personal situation. We're also looking to speak with a good nonprofit lawyer because we want to get that officially registered so that we can maybe start seeking corporate donations or something at a larger scale, some way for us to approach significant funding so we can have significant impact. Something cool about the group itself is we have a lot of people who have worked with nonprofits. There are people who've started foundations. I will bring up the Kind Theory. I want to give them a shout out, if you will. They've got a website that has a whole bunch of resources that are available. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good. Period. That's all I have to say about that. But also, in the group, there's so much worth saving, so much worth fighting for, and we really need the help. So, share the news, share the information, let people know who we are, what we do. Volunteers, again, are really helpful. If you're a good volunteer organizer, that would be super duper helpful. That's really where a big struggle is I've had people since I started the group want to help, and the problem is with me operating from panic and struggle and stress and shoestring, I haven't been able to take advantage of them at all. There was a period of time in the beginning where I tried to make it super structured so that I could have people coming and doing meetings and doing all this other stuff, but it's a group of people who are disabled, right? I can't expect anybody to be able to show up consistently every day. That's just not fair, right? They're human beings. And that was the only way that I could really think to try to manage that at that time. And I just couldn't handle the stress of managing that and managing a staff and managing a company and managing my finances and blah, 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 blah. I was in some very toxic relationships too that kind of stuff will exhaust you for sure. So we are about 10 minutes away from the half-minute mark where I intend on doing a brief intermission. So just keep that in mind to be prepared for that. I'm going to do a quick audio quality check just to make sure I didn't just screw things up, so bear with me. That sounds pretty good. Okay. So yeah, the support group does a lot of good stuff for a lot of people, and I really want to be able to make this my full-time thing. I don't think I've ever been more passionate or dedicated to something or felt more like this is what I'm supposed to do. And again, that's one of the reasons too, I think about that kind of stuff and it just reminds me, this is why you need to make sure that you're doing what's right for the community, more than anything, because it can be really dangerous when you feel like this is your calling, this is your thing, because then it's I know the right thing to do, and I'm Mr. Smarty Pants, and I help everybody, and everybody listens to me, and now everything's great and hunky dory, and it just doesn't really work out that well when you go into that place. Oh no, It's almost perfect. Sorry. There we go. Oh man, I thought I was going to be able to go back to my previous thought. But that's part of the looking at the real side of disability, right? Is executive dysfunction. That's part of what that is you lose your train of thought, you forget what you're talking about. It's just important not to shame yourself for it. You know, you're just human. But yeah, so we do have a lot of goals for what we want to do with the group. Oh, right, that's what yeah. They want to, staying humble is super important, and making sure that you're focused on how you're addressing and meeting other people's needs, and you know, what are their values, and not trying to, because like it gets so easy to get to a place where you're willing to just project everything on everyone. Like, they don't know what they really want. It's this, it's that, and it's like, you can't do that. And even just like historically speaking in my own life, I've noticed sort of a pattern that the more that like, it's one thing to be confident and to take ownership in your skill and stuff like that. It's another thing to think that something worked out because of you. Something worked out because of a confluence of very lucky series of events. You did, you know, you can plan the best billion-dollar baseball game, but you can't stop it from snowing, right? There's a level of chaos and randomness to the universe that makes it where it makes no sense to be like, I did this thing, I'm responsible for this thing. And the other thing too is people will lose respect for you if you do go that way, or the people that matter. Now there's obviously certain people who can take credit for everything, and if you're willing to ride that to its extreme logical conclusion, you can handle that on your conscience. There's a level of success you gain from that. I'm not going to deny that. But if you want to have meaningful connections with people, if you want to live in the real world and have people look out for you and stand up for you whenever you're in the shit, you got to stay humble. You got to acknowledge how you didn't get here alone. You didn't do any of this by yourself. You didn't build the roads. You didn't invent the car and build that, right? Like, everything that surrounds me right now, this couch, these computers, this microphone, I didn't make it. I didn't build it. I didn't pay for well, I mean, you know, there's the money. Capitalism's fun. I'll just stop there. But taking inventory and being grateful for all of the people who got you to where you are and made you who you are, for better or for worse, right? I'll tell you what, since it's a 10-minute intermission, I think we're going to go ahead and split it from... Oh, wait, that's right. We started 11:11 and we go to 1:11, so that's not how that works. It would be... Okay. So, no, yeah, it'll be at 12. So, for the next 10 minutes... Oh, let's talk about this. There was a very pleasant experience in the group not too long ago. One of the things that I find is music is very helpful for me to... Yeah, even trying to give this eye contact, my brain is just shutting down. That's not an eyeball. It kind of looks like one. Like I'm looking over there, like you're over there. You're over here. Hi. That's nuts. Anyway, music. There was a after group sort of hangout session that we were doing on Discord, and somebody whipped out their cello and was just doing, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it freeform jazz or something like that, but they were speaking with their instrument basically. And like, that's something that I thought was so awesome to see, like a group of people just watching somebody almost essentially arbitrarily pick notes. You know, there wasn't a melody to suss out or anything like that. It was just human communication, and that's something that I find I like to do a lot with I play electric bass, and there's a lot of fun in just letting your body move and seeing what happens and just being okay with it. And that's, one of the many reasons that I want to keep this group going, is because we've been able to make a place for people to just exist, and I'm hoping that we can create enough success to grow that. I mean, at the very least, I reflect on, there's a period of time where I was able to do 2 separate locations and social events, and we were able to help so many more people. And when that toxic situation I was referring to earlier happened, it was kind of upsetting because we lost that second location, and then I lost that car, and now it's just Dallas and online, which it's still something, but I'd rather it not become nothing. I'd rather us continue to grow. But we can't do it without you. We can't do it without help. So once again, please share, donate, advise, questions, anything at all is super helpful. Bringing attention to the problem is hard. I'm a Texan male, and for people who know anything about Texas, you could probably make a lot of assumptions that aren't super wrong about what belief systems I was raised with and what I was taught to think about myself. And I don't want a handout. I don't want charity. I want to be the charity. I want to be the one handing things out. And I've been able to do that for a long time, but we can't keep going that route. And I have to humble myself to admit that I can't do it alone, and I need help from the outside world to be able to do what's right for the people in the group and people in the autism community as a whole, the neurodiverse people, whether it's Down syndrome, schizophrenia, or, whatever label you want to put on it. Unique brains deserve to be cherished and valued, not discarded. And we want to make sure that we're lifting those voices up. And I had this realization not too long ago that money is power, and we want to take that power back. Either it would be nice if it was possible to find a way to speak to the community directly and see if there's enough potential support there to be able to start the ball rolling. But if the public can help too, we need the help. So it's now officially 12 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and go on our first 10-minute break. Or I guess maybe the only. We're going to take a break for 10 minutes. So bear with us. And thank you for watching.
Hey, it's Tate McRae. Check out my song X's on the Pop Certified playlist right here on YouTube.
The YouTube Music app lets you discover undiscovered songs and humble brag that you heard it first. Get YouTube Music Premium. listen ad-free, download music offline, and keep songs playing in the background? Get YouTube Music Premium.
Hello and welcome back. So, that was a quick mindfulness break. Something I've thought about doing was maybe doing a meditation on stream. I'm not sure if there's as much, like the main idea behind it, to let you in on some behind the scenes stuff, was if we're talking about content, bringing up news, bringing up difficult subjects to help people out, there's a good chance some people are going to get triggered or overwhelmed or start dissociating or disconnect with their feelings in some way. And so we wanted to make sure that we were going to consider that in the stream, right? If we're trying to appeal to our community, we want to make sure that they're being taken care of. So just give me a second. I want to make sure that the stream is working properly again. Testing, test, test. Yep, seems like it's going good. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, welcome back to the stream. My name's Kevin, here on behalf of NeuroUnify and the Dallas-Fort Worth Autistic Support Group. You can find us on meetup.com. You can go to our website, neurounify.com. This is a fundraising campaign. We are looking for donations. I'm the facilitator of the support group. I'm the owner of NeuroUnify. Although with owner of NeuroUnify, that's not something I want. I prefer it to be a employee-owned organization, although I'm not sure how that would work as a nonprofit. Anyway, the goal behind everything is always for me to have it be representative of the people who are being served by whatever it is. And so I want to bring in a lot of kind of how I manage my own companies and a lot of how I teach business owners to run their business and make sure that's incorporated into the charity work that we're doing, or I don't know if you want to call it charity or social work, but I want to make sure that it's not, this kind of stuff doesn't work as a dictatorship, basically, is the long and short of it. And so we're here trying to raise money to keep the support group going, to scale and grow up the efforts of what NeuroUnify does. We like to work with neurodiverse people. Usually it's a lot of autistic people, and sort of teach them some of the what I like to call the secret handshakes of the neurotypical working environment or social environments, how to adapt a little bit more to the world as they're expected to, but not necessarily in a way that compromises their sense of self or, identity, and, help people find positions where their skills and strengths are what are on focus and not their weaknesses. And so, like, one of the cool things that we do at NeuroUnify is, we'll hire people for positions without actually expecting them to, like, work at that position forever. We'll bring people in at whatever and then start sort of working with them to figure out what their skills and strengths are, what they want to do with their life, what their vision is for their future, where they see themselves, and then we sort of try to shift their workload around what will get them to that goal, because there's always work to do, there's always work to share, at least with where we're at right now, and it seems to go a long way to reminding people of their inherent worth and inherent value. So, if anybody can contribute to help us continue doing that, you'd be doing a world of good for a lot of people. And the nice thing is because of my experience of just doing this all myself out of my own pocket, we're able to make a little go a long way. So every little bit that we can get will help us get even further ahead. I guess one of the other things that it said to talk about was sharing my own mental health experiences, and I can say that is something I'm going through today. Is very, I like using the word tilted because I'm a gamer. If anybody's played pinball, tilted is that state of a pinball machine when you hit it and it just shuts down. It goes, you tried to tilt it. And so it became sort of a representation of when you lose your grounding or mental stability. And I can't help but notice, like, I really didn't want to do the stream today, because I got, I don't want to say set off per se, but off my game. I got off balance. Yeah, I was off balance. And it's just kind of what happens when you're really raw, is you're gonna make a lot of social mistakes. And one thing I did in this situation was I felt like whenever I feel like I'm not as nice as I normally am, I try to think about what happened and why. And as another example of ChatGPT and me, I actually kind of asked it what its suggestions are on in regards to how to make sure that I can perform consistently for the group. Like, a part of what I want to do a daily 2-hour stream for is to also showcase my own consistency, being there for the group, what people can expect. They'll be able to expect somebody who shows up and somebody who cares, somebody who may not always get it right, somebody who makes mistakes, but is trying to do the right thing for the right reasons. And I'm hoping that will be supported and valued. But yeah, so it suggested a meditation, and I have this app called Insight Timer. This is not an ad. And I just looked through my bookmarks to see if I had anything that might work, and there was one for something about forgiveness and something or other. Anyway, it taking the time to find a way to ground myself and recenter myself was able to at least pull me out of that, like, shame spiral and take me back to some level of grounding. And I don't think it was a very good apology, but I did make an attempt to apologize. There's a book called The 4 Agreements that I really like, and one of them is don't take anything personally, and I did a very bad job at that one. oh, I broke that rule. But I mean, that's part of it. It takes a while to unlearn the old rules and learn the new, or unlearn the old agreements and learn the new ones. But I like it because it's like a simple set of 4 rules, or 4 agreements, quote unquote. Sorry. It just, like, the reason I was bringing it up is it fit really well for me, because I tend to be like, well, these are the rules. This is what you do. This is what you're supposed to do. And so hearing somebody be like, oh yeah, it's just these, and you know, you're good. And it was, always do your best, but remember your best changes from day to day. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. And I always forget the 4th one. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Always do your best. Give me a second. Let's figure this out together. So the 4 agreements, unless somebody in chat wants to volunteer and throw that in. The 4 agreements, what are they? The 4 agreements. They are. Wiki's probably got it right. Let's trust the wiki. Okay, maybe not. Shoot. Ah, okay. Yeah, and every time I remember it, I remember why I always forget. It's don't make assumptions. I'm real bad at that one. I'm getting better every day, but man, when you're raw and emotional, it is very hard not to be like, oh, I see it. It is it. Call it out. Bullshit. Fuck you. But that's not the way to go about it. So yeah, don't make assumptions. That's the 4th one. But yeah, so mental health wise, so let's, ChatGPT and I talked, and that's kind of what we thought about, was a way to adapt to low functioning, would be to lower the expectations, create a format or a structure that is more conducive to the state in which I'm in. And so that's what we're doing here now, and I've already managed to make it for an hour without necessarily feeling too much panic or stress. Of course, I have medicated, and I medicated again on my break. But, you know, that's the thing for, well, when I say medicate, I'm referring specifically to medical marijuana, which I do have a legal prescription for in the state of Texas, which, for those of you who didn't know, it's legal. If you have a prescription and you have a qualifying medical condition. But, you know, for me, all it does is it just sort of turns down the volume on everything just a little bit. Like, lights are a little dimmer, colors are a little less bright, people are a little less loud, my feelings are a little less strong. It doesn't necessarily fix anything or make it go away. Uh-oh. It just occurred to me. Wait, was that my phone? I think it was. I got a text from somebody. Sorry about that. Distractions. But yeah, so mental health stuff is fun. But that's kind of what I'm hoping to share in this experience, though, is some of the ways to make it where you're not consumed by what you're going through. Because there are times in my life where feelings like this would lead me to shut myself off in my room for days and just not eat or drink or do anything so that I don't have to interact with people until I felt like I could recover. But it took so long because I wasn't letting myself recover. I was just damaging myself more and more while I was in that isolation. So speaking the truth about some of the mental health struggles can help depressurize that, if that makes sense. Where things are so much worse in your brain than they are in reality, and even sometimes just saying something out loud, even if it's to nobody, even if it's to the ether, you hear it differently, you process it differently, and it puts you in a better headspace to actually recover, because when you're still in that fight or flight state, your body is still responding as though you're in danger still, and that means it's not going to nourish itself, it's going to burn because it thinks you need to escape. And so when you give yourself the space to feel, which is easier said than done first and foremost, and then certainly a lot easier for some people in certain situations than others. If you have somebody who's controlling and vindictive and violent and aggressive in your life, it's a little harder to be able to make that space to give yourself that grace, because they, the second you try to breathe, they'll hear it and come down on you. But thankfully I'm in a relatively safe space, and I'm able to make these connections mentally and work through it. And there's a lot of people I know who are struggling with their mental health, even though they look around and it looks like everything should be fine, everything on paper's fine. And the irony is that why do I feel like this? I shouldn't feel like this, blah, blah, blah stuff is kind of the problem, right? It's when you can accept and feel and go through it that it helps. Like, you can't get over it or under it or around it. You have to go through it when it comes to feelings. And I think that's an important thing to remember. So speaking of remembering, if there's anybody who's popping in and wants to share something in the chat, please feel free. Looking for questions and answers, or not. Well, yeah, both actually, I guess. But if you have any questions, happy to address them on stream. Also, I think for those of you who may be watching this later, we're currently streaming on Twitch, but I think there's a chance we might switch over to YouTube. Just it might be a better place for people to look for what we're doing. I'm not sure how many people are going to Twitch for mental health stuff. I know at least I myself have stumbled across mental health stuff on Twitch before, which is why it was my first thought. There's a whole community out there. There's a place called the Knowledge Fellowship, I think is one of them. There's also a thing called Heart Support. Or actually, Knowledge Fellowship is for educators. Heart Support is the mental health one. And they're, I think, like a group of Twitch streamers who that's their whole thing. So, if you are here on Twitch now and you're looking for mental health stuff, happy to have you here. We'll probably be doing we'll probably be doing multi-streaming soon enough. But for now, it costs money and we'd have to pick one platform. So did the music stop? No, as soon as I said something. Okay, easily distracted. Self-conscious about using the word as well. There's a lot of research on the efficacy of speakers And uhs and ums and stuff are a big downside. The sad thing, though, is in your day-to-day life, it's very difficult for people to make space for you to process your thoughts and say them out loud. And so saying an or an is usually a really good indicator to that other person that you're still formulating your thoughts. So it's hard to want to break away from, knowing that if I internalize the habit too much, I'm going to be a lot more likely to be interrupted. So it's going to be sort of a back and forth if I'm not careful. That said, talking about mental health is tricky. I'm trying to think of how this would work. Is do I just talk about the symptoms? Is like, I mean, I don't know. Now I'm self-conscious, worried people are going to judge because I was about to say fuzzy thoughts, but I just can hear in my head somebody going like, "Oh, they're going to say that's because of the marijuana." It's like, I mean, you might not be wrong, but I'd rather have, like, if my head is full of cripplingly negative thoughts, I'd rather them be fuzzy than clear, you know? But yeah, I suppose it's a catch-22. But anyway, it's the point is, though, is that it's irrelevant in general. I can speak to that as a symptom that occurs regardless of it. I've had many instances in the past where I forget that it is actually a medication and try to quit, and then I'm reminded painfully that it is a medication, and that the fact that there are things that I feel that are technically considered side effects of the medicine does not mean that those are things that are caused by the medicine. Like, I have a lot of appetite issues. I have a lot of exhaustion issues. A lot of times I can't think clear-headed, and there are plenty of times where I'm very clear-headed and medicated. I mean, in my experience, most people are usually only able to tell the difference if they know me pretty well. And it's usually for the better. I've gotten crap in the past for, you know, straight edge was something that I really clung to as a kid. And it was a big deal to me to feel like, I mean, probably, now that I think about it, it's probably a big deal to feel like I was good enough in some way. You know, validation, like, oh, I followed these rules, now you'll love me. 'Cause it's where a lot of this mental health struggle comes from for a lot of people that at least have come through the support group. It's the being told by their school or their friends or their family that they're not doing the right thing. They won't tell you what the right thing is, but they'll tell you you're doing it wrong and that it's weird and it's bad. And I mean, I know there's plenty of people out there who have been lucky enough to have mentors in their life that will provide them with some of that information, the useful feedback, like, oh yeah, that happened because of this, and you're feeling that because of that, and that's normal and that's okay. And not, if I make a mistake, I'm going to lose my entire social life. Like, that's just not a good place to be. And it, like, I know a lot of people are like, when are you going to stop blaming your parents and don't blah, blah, blah. But, like, those are the people who establish who you are. They give you the space to exist. And if you're not allowed to occupy that space, you sort of just learn to not take up space. Like, one of the things I do when I'm vulnerable is I get smaller, and I'm very much shrinking up. It's a fun mental health thing. it's a lot to process when you try to feel your feelings. I think especially one of the interesting things to learn about autism is like misinformation out there about we're aloof and don't feel things and stuff like that, and it turns out that's not true. That's just dissociation. Almost everybody I've seen, they feel things extremely intensely, and it's one of the things that tends to get us in trouble socially. And I've got a lot of experiences of it where I'm feeling what somebody else is feeling stronger than they're feeling it, and so it has a more severe consequences for me than the other person, and then they take that as me trying to make it about myself, and with the way I danced around, it makes it sound like I'm going, don't tell me that hurts my feelings, and they're like, what but no, like more like somebody talking about a thing that casually frustrated them, and me being like, oh my god, that sounds awful, that sounds so, like, I'd be so pissed off if that was me. I'd like, and it's not me trying to tell them what to do or try, like, but it's, stuff just comes across that way, and you sort of get this reinforcement in your head that like, oh, I just shouldn't talk. Maybe there's no value in what I say. Maybe there's no value in what I do. Which is another kind of one of the reasons that the group is important and why I kind of want to do it full time. Well, not kind of. I very much want to do it full time. That's why I'm trying to commit 2 hours of every day to ask people to help me do it full time, because there's good work being done and people being helped at the end of the day, and it's worth supporting. It's worth encouraging. If we are the society we think we are, this is how we make the world a better place. Like one person at a time, one group at a time, one meeting at a time, one favor at a time, right? Like we're all in this spaceship Earth together. If we don't support each other and lift each other up, I don't think we'll be around much longer. Not sure why I'm getting messages from certain people. Well, I mean, and that's, I suppose, a good thing to bring up. Like part of the difficulty in trying to do stuff like this is coordinating help, and being there for the people who rely on me can sometimes be difficult. And in a moment like right now, where I'm expecting to be supported by two people, not expecting per se, hoping, it doesn't appear as though they've shown up in the stream, but I did get messages asking for help, and so there's that like gut instinct of like, that's not fair, but then it's like, no, it's not. That's part of my responsibility. Now I'm not gonna address the messages until after the stream is over, because I think that's a fair compromise. They're both aware of what's going on, and that the stream exists, so they'll understand why I'm busy. And I won't need to necessarily, well, hopefully won't need to, like, I'm almost certain my message is going to be, sorry, I was in the middle of the stream, but I would assume I would hope that comes part and parcel with it. See, like I said before, this is hard to remember, don't make assumptions. Oh, and now I'm hearing like the 4 other times I've used, it's hard for me. The world is very scary, and I like to use logic to try to make sense of it. I like to think, I understand this now, so I don't have to be afraid of it anymore. And it helps to an extent, but not really. Like it's a false sense of security, right? It's not real peace of mind. It allows me to dismiss it, right? And that's not what you do when you're trying to be smart. You need to take consideration of all the risks and everything like that too whenever you're trying to make a calculation like that. But anyway, so with the stream stuff though, it's you know, that's kind of part of the important thing about being a manager is recognizing whether or not you've established clear expectations or created some kind of actual arrangement where you've agreed on, like, this is what we're doing, this is what the positive outcomes are if it gets done, this is the negative outcomes if it doesn't. Do we agree? Like, if you don't create that sort of like structured agreement, then as a manager I have absolutely no right to hold anyone to anything. And so I got to listen to that gut, acknowledge my feelings, figure out where they come from, address them, but not take them out on other people and be like, no, I want people to know that they can do stuff like that, send me messages, communicate with me. I want to be approachable. I want to make sure people know that they don't have to hold back with me. And so you got to take that breath and be like, okay, I hear that thought. I'm sure it's valid. What are we actually going to do though? And then thinking through and being like, okay, well, what's the next thing? What does that mean? What else could this represent? Or what's another way that I can frame this that will be useful or beneficial or valuable to everyone involved? How do I respect my emotional needs and the other person's emotional needs at the same time? And you know, the best way in this situation is acknowledge that neither of them said that they were coming to, like, yeah, I'm going to be there on Monday. That was never discussed. So it's just a matter now of me trying to process my feeling guilty for not being able to respond to their needs immediately. But that's part of mental health and self-care, is balancing your needs with other people's needs, not just throwing them away to meet other people's needs, which is kind of what happened this morning that left me a little tilted. Was I was working on doing that, and it's very, very hard, especially with a lot of the context of the situation itself, a lot of risk, and you know, it's not just about hurting myself, it's about potentially hurting people and hurting people who care about people. And like, you know, I try not to get too obsessive with the butterfly effect, but I think it's really important that people are aware of the impact they can have on other people, and to think very carefully about what they do and say before they say it. And I don't think you should like fundamentally change who you are to make other people comfortable. That's a thing I used to think, and I was miserable, but I think there's a way to slow down and pause and filter things that shows consideration. And I feel like that's the best I can do a lot of times. But I'm not going to beat myself up about that too much, because then it just gets worse. You know, if the reason I'm lashing out is because I have limited mental energy and physical energy and I'm not taking care of myself, I don't think beating myself up is going to make any of that any better. It's liable to reinforce aggression towards myself and towards others. So trying to focus on inner peace and inner peace is probably going to be the primary focus for the rest of my day. I do definitely need to make sure that I'm acknowledging and responding to everybody. Also, I'm remembering there was going to be some text thing from my landlord. Let me make sure. Not landlord. We're getting some lawn care stuff done maybe today or tomorrow. because this is another example of why we're doing the fundraising. The lawnmower we have is busted, doesn't really work anymore, don't have income, so can't afford to hire a professional lawnmower. There's not really any stores within walking distance, so both of us not having a car. Anyway, the city has been a little unhappy with us, and some tickets have been piling up, and it has occurred to me that there's probably more value in scraping together something to pay for it since it's winter and we can get it done than accruing, 120, and then 290 is so far the totals that I've seen. And I'm hoping to be able to talk to them and explain our situation, since both me and my roommate are disabled, and he's on a fixed income and I'm on a non-income, and there's a chance they might have some leniency, and maybe the fine can be waived with us showing good faith efforts and explaining the situation. That's the hope, but I'm definitely not going to make assumptions. It is a lot easier for me to make assumptions about negative stuff than it is positive stuff. That's an interesting thought. But yeah, I'm not sure, given the context of everything going on, I don't think I'm going to necessarily have this be the normal 2-hour stream. In fact, there's been some internal debate that I'm going to maybe shrink it down to 1 hour to start and spend more time planning and broadcasting. Yeah, 2 hours is a long time. I mean, I certainly don't have an issue talking about random stuff for 2 hours, but trying to keep things sort of centralized is the key part. So there's a good thing to talk about mental health. So somebody just literally closed a door, but because of how hyped up I am, my heart almost exploded. Like, it wasn't a slam. It wasn't even anything loud. It was just a normal door closing. But my heart, seized up, and my blood pressure feels very high, and I'm getting a little shakier now. And, that's just the stuff that you get to deal with when you're dealing with, trauma or certain disabilities. All the good news is now I'm more comfortable being my natural autistic self and physically stimming. So you notice my body bobbing up and down, but that's actually my leg bouncing up and down, sort of on its own. But I'm allowing it to do that, or letting it do that, judgment-free, because it's how we regulate, right? I could probably prevent it. I probably could stop. Yeah. See, as soon as I stopped, I started stuttering, right? That's case in point. But yeah, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to do the full 2 hours, but I did want to make sure that I'm consistently showing up, especially one of the things that's last week, with missing 2 of the 5 days that I had planned, illness and mental health related stuff is okay, well, how do I plan to be able to be there even for that? And I have a few ideas in the chamber. This was something that was sort of thrown together with ChatGPT. Not necessarily last minute. I've been up since 6 a.m. today, weirdly enough. But we've made some updates to the website. That's something fun to share. I didn't realize how much. What's a better way to word this? I spent some time this morning changing up the aesthetic a little bit, and I think I like it. It feels a little bit more peaceful than it did before. I think it was a little in your face, which was good for what it was initially. Initially, when I started Neurodiversity, the idea was to build a company that I could use as a job pipeline for neurodiverse people to, oh my goodness, I don't know if it's cat hair or allergies, but it's driving me crazy. But anyway, NeuroUnify, the idea was to create a proof of concept model of a business structure that works, build enough of a revenue base to be able to start splitting off and doing charity stuff, and be able to be like, hey, look, this is a business run by an autistic person with a bunch of neurodiverse employees. This is how you guys should be running your business, because look how well we're doing. And we were doing pretty well when we had the right clients, but my recovering from codependency issues rearing their ugly head, I have a habit of believing the best in people, and sacrificing for the sake of the greater good. And some people are more comfortable taking advantage of that than others. But anyway, so it's the website was originally formulated around drumming up potential clients for the services that we still do technically offer. We do business consulting, we do like management consulting, that kind of stuff. We'll do marketing, we'll do IT. I have a pretty extensive background in technology in general. One of the things I like to say is basically, if you plug it in, I can fix it probably. So the website was sort of more of the corporate side of things, and we've shifted over to like the fundraising charity model. We're going to try to go straight into that, and so there's been a couple changes made to the website to hopefully better reflect that vibe, if you will. To me, it feels like it breathes a little bit better, but it might be a little too hippy-dippy-ish. One of the many things we're open to volunteers or feedback or questions or whatever about, right? We're always looking to improve. We're always trying to make sure that we're representing the values of the people that we're representing. I want to make sure that we're helping people with what they need help with, which to my experience right now is mostly like getting a good job and being able to hold that job without having some meltdown or social issues get in the way of having a satisfying career. Now we can do that internally, either having you work for NeuroUnify, although right now it's just volunteers, because salary would have to come out of donations right now. But I helped a lot of people find satisfying positions, and you know, I just, more than anything, I want to make sure that we're giving back to the community more than we're taking. I think we've been doing that for a few years now, hence why it felt like I wouldn't be the worst person in the world if I asked for donations or help, because you can only try to do it for so long without it being somewhat reciprocal. I mean, it is somewhat reciprocal. That sounds dismissive. Because I just don't want to say that I've done it all by myself, because I fucking didn't. I don't do anything by myself. I covered that earlier. Sometimes I put it all on myself. That might be a good way to word it. And I'm hoping this shift in what we're doing is going to be a way to help take away some of that responsibility from me, that sense of responsibility for me, but empower other people in the process, right? Like, I see a lot of a lot of good in what we've been doing, and because of the change in my own circumstances, I can now see potentially a way to do so much more good. And I hope that you guys can join us on this journey so that we can work together to make things better. Yeah, I think that's a pretty respectable length for a stream. I mean, I think setting a goal for 111 was really good, and I'm definitely going to be able to... No, I'm not going to set any expectations, but I think hopefully I'll be able to reflect and rewatch this stream, make some assessments on how the free-form version of it went and works, see how I can integrate that with a lot of the stuff we've already been talking about, and ideally tomorrow. Tomorrow is something that I will be excited about, and I'm looking forward to seeing how... Oh, we just had somebody who hopped in. So basically just kind of going over how tomorrow's stream is going to take some, like, we're going to probably get some more specific content involved. So if you have any kind of questions or concerns or anything that you were wanting to bring up, please feel free to put it in the chat, or go to our website, neurounify.com. Actually, it doesn't have a Q&A thing there, but it does have links to the Discord, which you can join and ask questions there. But we are actually about to close the stream. We do stream from 11:11 a.m. Central to 1:11 p.m. Central, which I know it's not 1:11 yet, but there's some mental health issues that are causing some difficulties, and being a neurodiverse focused charity, accommodating mental and physical issues is something that we highly prioritize. So if you'd like to watch more of what we do, you could check out our YouTube. It's under Neurounify, NEUROUNIFY. Our website, neurounify.com. We have an Instagram. We're on pretty much every social media platform. Although Instagram is really the main one. I think that's why I mentioned that one. So I appreciate everyone who's watched so far, and I wanted to wish you guys happy mental health, and we will look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Thank you.